Hi, are you an author in the middle of self-publishing your next book? Somewhere along the process, you probably heard about creating an audiobook. You've been encouraged to make an audiobook. You know friends who've made the investment in creating an audiobook, but you can't bring yourself to get started because getting into the technical weeds just seems too daunting. But what if we could take that all away? What if we could remove 90% of the technical barriers, so all you would have to do is show up to the microphone and record? Or maybe you don't want to record your own audiobook. That's totally fine too. We have an experienced team of professional narrators that would love to audition for your audiobook. Our Done For You service guarantees that you will have a professionally produced audiobook ready for commercial release. If you're ready to get started today, please click the link below and schedule a free call. We can't wait to hear from you and to get started on your project.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement podcast. I am Stephen Uriest, author of Pet Series Books. With me, as always, is my best friend and publisher, Susan Gabriel of Soul Sunshine. As always, we are sponsored by Soul Sunshine. Be sure to check us out at soulsunshine.com if you are looking to become a published author. Susan, we're back!
I know. Here we are. And you know what? I'm loving your new graphics.
Thank you.
Season 2 graphics, these are just great. I really love the way that it looks. I think you did a really great job on them. I
appreciate that. It's been a while. It has been a while since our last episode. I was still living in Denver, Colorado, and now I am here in sunny Jacksonville, Florida. Traveled across the country with my kids, in search of new life and prosperity and happiness and just new.
Yes, and I am still here in beautiful downtown Springtown, Texas.
Yes, you are. And we got to meet on my little journey across the country, didn't we?
We finally got to meet in person.
We finally got to meet. We got big hugs. We had some barbecue, and that was absolutely awesome, man.
Yeah, it was a good time. Good time.
It was quite the journey. I will have to let everybody know out there all the stuff we went through to get across country and what we experienced, and it will be coming out in my next book. However, today we do have a very special guest coming on to Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. His name is Dr. Kipp Van Camp. He is the author of the book called Heartbeats and Handshakes. Take a look at that there. That's Heartbeats and Handshakes. Absolutely fantastic book. Also became a bestseller, published here in Soul Sunshine. So without further ado, let's bring Dr. Kipp to the stage. Dr. Kipp, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Steve?
Doing well. Thank you for joining us here on Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement podcast. You are the author of the book Heartbeats and Handshakes. Why don't you just get started and introduce yourself to our viewers? Let us know more about you.
Well, let's see. Where do you want to start? I started writing about 20 years ago. I've written multiple books. Each book has its own unique twist. Some are novels. One book was a political book. The first book I ever wrote was a pet book about a dog that we had called Always Allie. I mean, we named the book Always Allie. She was Allie, little Bichon that my wife and I had. And it was a cute little book, but it got me started in the writing genre, into writing, I guess. I was more of just a storyteller. And to think, if you really go back and want to understand me, somewhere around 40, I'm 62. So somewhere around 40, I looked around and I said, I had told my family, I told friends, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that. And I hadn't done it. And I'm a guy who's completely motivated by, if you say it, you better back it up. And
Nice.
it said it. So I decided I better get to work. And that's when I started writing. Now, my dad was a veterinarian. He passed away of Alzheimer's in 2015. And I actually was fortunate enough to help with his medical care. But he was, as a veterinarian, his favorite author was James Herriot. And so the veterinarian from England, from the, I don't know, mid 19th century, 20th century. I think he was alive in the late 19th century and then into the 20th century. I think he may have passed away in like 1965 or so. It's been a while since I've read about his background. But anyway, my dad had these books that we all read as kids, and I loved the style. Fell in love with it, fell in love with James Herriot and his type of writing, and always said, if I can emulate those books in the world of people, then I will have accomplished something. And that's where Heartbeats and Handshakes came from. I tried to tell short stories about humans, just like Harriet.
And I was lucky enough to be able to edit the book. And that's the first thing I noticed right off the bat. It reminded me so much of those books by James Herriot.
He had a quick wit about him, and his stories were heartwarming and entertaining, but easy to read. Anybody could sit down and read it. He didn't. My family member recently sent me a book that's written by a Cornell graduate, and it's a medical book as well, a storybook about interesting cases, but it's written so highbrow that it's, and I know there are people out there that love that. It's just not me, and it's not my type of writing style. And so when I write like Heartbeats and Handshakes, the audience I write to is not necessarily the highbrow or the highly intellectual book. I write for anybody. I want anybody who has been a patient, has had a family member who's been a patient. I want them to feel like this is an accessible book and they can relate to the stories I tell.
Absolutely.
That's my goal.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in all of this, in all of your adventures, all of your medical background, all of your training, everything like that, you've written a numerous number of books, but why did you start writing?
Well, I think it was more to entertain myself and to see if I could develop a skill set. I can't recall any creative writing teacher say to me, in high school or college, I don't remember anyone ever pulling me aside and saying, you've got a gift. It's amazing. You write really well. I don't remember that. I do remember a short story I wrote in high school that had a strange ending that I was really proud of. It was one of those take someone down a path, take them down the path, and then change the ending real fast and see if you can shock them. And I remember pulling that off pretty well and having the instructor ask, where did you come up with that? So I enjoyed that, but it wasn't that I was such a great writer. In fact, the first book I wrote, I sent off to an editor, and I hang on a second, I'll show you something. I sent the first book to an editor. This is 2005, and I had I don't know if you see that 3-ring binder without. It's got that. There we go. So
leather bound.
It's literally typed. It's not a computer because we didn't have computers in everyone's house yet. And I sent that manuscript to a creative writing instructor down in Florida that I paid a little money to, and she sent it back. And it was basically she gave me a creative writing class on the fly, and I learned how to write. And then over the years, I started honing this skill set. So it proves that you don't have to be gifted in whatever you're doing to do it. I had a pilot tell me once, there are 3 types of pilots. There's the pilot who should never fly a plane because they just can't get it, and they're the ones who crash their plane. And then there's the pilot who works really hard, and maybe it's not that natural, but they work hard and they end up making themselves a really good pilot. And then there's the person who they sit in the cockpit for the first time and everything's intuitive and they just are gifted as far as piloting goes. And I take the same approach to writing. So, I mean, if someone's out there and they like to write or they think I'd like to try that, you can learn how to write.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not that you're just gifted and that's why you write. At least that's my opinion on it.
So you talked about honing your skills, but how did you hone your skills?
Writing. That's what the lady told me to do. The first lady I sent this manuscript to, basically in a nice way, she was basically saying, "You're not that good at it yet. You need to keep writing." That's basically what she was saying. And so I kept writing, and I kept writing, and I kept writing, and pretty soon I figured out phrases and quality adjectives, and I dumped out the varies and the extra words that, just that. And you just, in time, we speak differently than we write. And yet there's an art to writing conversation as well.
Absolutely.
And so it's almost like there's two skill sets there. You speak one way. And so if you're writing a conversation between, let's say, the three of us, and I'm trying to put that on paper, that's a different skill than if I'm describing that the three of us sat down and did a podcast together.
Yeah.
They're two different types of writing. And I've learned that only by doing. And in many ways, writing is just like medicine in many ways. And I know that may sound absurd in some respects, but the more you do it, the better you become at it. If you're someone who wants to develop your skills. Now, if you're the guy or the lady or man who graduates from med school and they feel like, I got it, I know it, I learned it, I'm done, I'm ready, then that person's probably never going to get any better. But the person like me who's always trying to make themselves better, there's always something to learn. So I just keep trying.
That's awesome. Really quick, we've got some viewers. Melissa out there. Hello. She says she still uses her typewriter and welcomes me to the Sunshine State. Thank you, Melissa. I'm happy to be here. And Dan. Hey, Dan out there. How's it going? He's up north in Canada. So we got some people who are fans of your book who are tuning in and checking us out. Going back, you decided to write this book, and it's what I would describe as a medical memoir. Why a medical memoir of all things?
Well, my dad was a larger than life character. He was very pragmatic, a disciplinarian, and because I had spent a lot of time with him as a young man in his vet practice, and I had read all those Herriot books, he recognized something in me that I didn't recognize. And he told me at a young age, when the creative writing teachers didn't say you're gifted or anything, my dad said, you can do this and I think you can do it well, but you're going to have to keep track of your cases as you go, because the brain, you don't think it now because you're young and really, quick on the uptake. As you age, you won't remember everything. You'll be shocked at what you forget. And so the best thing you can do is carry a little notebook around and jog brief notes about interesting cases into your notebook. And I did it. What possessed me to do it? Probably, if I'm really candid about it, my dad had been such a disciplinarian. He told me to do it. So I felt like I was letting him down if I didn't do it. And so I did it. And then years passed, and one day I stumbled across the books I had, the notebooks I had kept. And I said, that was what happened at about age 40. And I said, I've always talked about doing this, and I haven't written anything yet, not to speak of. And so I started writing. And really, my writing career is 22 years old. I started at age 40.
Nice.
I had a midlife crisis I turned 40 and I said, get busy doing, or it's that old Shawshank Redemption. Andy Dufresne, get busy living or get busy dying. And I said, I need to get busy living. So I did.
Yeah, but you're not going to burrow out of any
I'm thinking
prisons
about it. That sounds kind of cool. We've got a silo in our front yard. We live out in the country, and I wonder if I could burrow a little tunnel from here to there. That'd be cool.
Well, if we ever end up in Mexico, I'll find you on the beach and we'll play some chess.
Just remember hope.
Always. But see, I'm a Star Wars fan, so rebellions are built on hope.
Yeah, I don't know if Shawshank and Star Wars can go hand in hand.
I think they can. I absolutely think they can.
You have to explain that one to me someday.
Maybe we'll write a book on it. Growing up, you said your father was a disciplinarian, that you studied on all this stuff, and kids, they want to be astronauts, they want to be race car drivers. What made you want to become a doctor? I
think following Dad around. I think I like science. I was good at science. I wasn't. I was in a interview for med school, and it was a place that I got put on an alternate list. And I've looked back at that over the years and just laughed at myself. I was so naive in many ways and green and just not that. I was from Western Kansas, a rural community. So I go to this interview, and this dean of academics who thinks he's pretty special, you can tell. And he's the academician, and he's quizzing me. And we get to the last question, and he says to me, "Now, what are you going to do if you don't get accepted into our medical school?" And the answer was, well, then I'm going to keep trying till I do. I'm going to cut off my left arm until I make it. But I'm pragmatic, and I said, there's a lot of things in this world people can do. And if I don't become a doctor, I'll certainly succeed at something else. There's plenty of other things I can do in this world. Well, that wasn't the answer they wanted. That was the truth. And that's kind of the same thing with I went back to my hometown for a year and worked at my mom and dad's. Dad still had his vet practice, but my mom had a sporting goods store. And I was the guy who was selling running shoes cleats to baseball players or football players. I mean, I was working in a sporting goods store, and a doctor that I had never met came in. He was a runner, and he came in and he bought a pair of running shoes, and he asked me what I was going to do with my life. And I said, well, I really don't know. I took a lot of science in college, and I had once thought I might go into medicine, but then my dad kind of wanted me to be a veterinarian, and yet I wasn't sure about that. And so here I sit, I'm taking a gap year, and I'm going to try and figure it out. And he said, well, come follow me in my clinic and see if you like what I do. And I did. And that's kind of what motivated me to say, you know what, I'm going to try it. And so then I applied, and then I had that interview then. That was during the gap year that I had that interview. And I think that's probably why I was so pragmatic about it, because while I was in Colby, Kansas, I was 22 years old, just graduated from college, and I'm back in the town I was born in, the town I was raised in, and I'm helping as an assistant football coach, and then an assistant wrestling coach, and then an assistant track coach, and I'm working at a sporting goods store, and I'm enjoying life. And I'm saying to myself, this wouldn't be a bad life. I could do this for a living if I choose to. And so I think that's when I realized you can do a lot of things in this world. Some people were born to be doctors. Maybe I was and just didn't see it, because I think I've turned into a pretty good doctor. But on the flip side, I could have been a heck of a football coach too. So, I mean, I think there's a lot of things in life a guy can do or a woman can do. It's just I think there's a God effect, and I think there's a path doors that open for you that are against your expectations. It's just, I think there's a pattern being sewn on the back of, so, that old story. If you take a needle point and you look at the back side of it, it looks like total chaos. And then when you flip it around, there's a beautiful picture. Well, that's kind of how a life is. There's times things feel and look like chaos. And then later on, as you live a little bit and you realize, you look back and you say, oh, that's why that happened this way. So
kind of like a tapestry as well, with a single thread. You have no idea what that single thread is in the tapestry.
Exactly right.
Look at them all together.
That's what I'm trying
to say. Your full sign. No, I absolutely love that analogy, and I mean it's romanticized in so many instances of life that people people don't really truly get it. I mean, there's so many times we're living in our lives where it's like, I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to go to work, and I've got to pay the bills, and I've got to do this, and I've got to do that, that we forget that in life, sometimes we have to stop, take a moment, figure out who we are, write that book in so many instances, because eventually you got to that point where you said, I want to write a book. And I'm curious, did you always want to write?
Yeah, actually clear back into college, I enjoyed writing. I did like writing. I didn't know whether I was any good at it, and I had really never written anything of any great substance. In science, you write a lot of science papers, but that's not the same kind of writing. I had a creative brain. My mind was still creative, and I wanted to tap into that some. But I love what you said about we romanticize things. And I think probably medicine is one of the reasons I ended up writing. And it's because in medicine, except in certain specialties, there's a lot of heartache and death that happens in medicine, and you see that and you live that, and it's up close and personal. And the brevity of life becomes really clear with every case that you have that has an unexpected bad outcome, or a sudden death that you didn't expect. It affects each one of us in different ways. And for me, it made me realize that there's a brevity of life, and you can talk all you want, but talk's pretty cheap. So if you really say you're going to do something, then put your pen down or put your pen to paper and start writing, or, take your feet and start walking and accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish. I have a cousin he's interesting fella. He has climbed 48 1,400 feet mountains. So those 14ers that
14ers.
And he's climbed 48 of them. And I sit there and say, just like he says, why do you write books? I sit there and say, why do you climb mountains? Writing's way easier than climbing a mountain.
I agree.
But there is a similarity to it. Part of it's just you have a goal and you step out, put yourself out there, and then you accomplish that goal. I suspect, I haven't had the in-depth conversation with this cousin of mine, why did you climb your first mountain? But I suspect with each one he climbed, the next one got a little easier and a little easier. And now it's probably harder to find one that challenges him like the first one did, or the second one. So I think that's life. I think that's any goal, and writing for me is a goal, or was a goal. So I started writing, and I've written quite a few books now because of it. And
That's
I'm pleased
awesome.
with that. It's one of those things when you're done, you feel like you've accomplished something. Although
Oh,
there is a letdown because you get it done and you want everyone in the world to read it.
oh, of
And
course.
not everyone's going to read it, no matter how great
Of
you're.
course. Oh no, we as authors we always have that mindset of this is going to change the world and I'm going to be known for this through all of history and time. But
Yeah.
I mean, those first few moments for me personally was when I first held my first book in my hand. When that package came in the mail and you open it up and there is your first book and you actually are holding it in your hand. You can smell it, you can see it, you can read it, you can physically touch it. That for me was my changing point of knowing that here I am. And it didn't go forth and sell a lot of copies, and it didn't, change anybody's perspective on things, but it did get me that bug. And I continued to write and write and write, and being up to 10 books now. But for you, walk us through the process of writing a book. How does Dr. Kipp write a book?
Well, it's changed. The first book I wrote was an outline and then fill in the stories. So lay out how many chapters I think is reasonable. Take the material I have and write. Now, years later, I pull together for like this medical memoir. I pull together a time in my life. So the first book is about the medical school years and the internship year. And then the next book is about the family medicine, the residency in family medicine, and then the family practice years. And then a third one, the third book in that series will be about the returning to a second residency and doing a second residency. And then the last book in the series will be about the future of medicine, regenerative medicine, and along that, if I just told you I was going to write a book like that, you'd say, well, that's got to be the most boring book you've ever heard, unless you're in medicine and you want to hear about that. But what makes it interesting is that's the umbrella. And then I go and tell the stories along the way that fell under that umbrella. And that's what Heartbeats and Handshakes is about. It's kind of a step back look at how a young person at the time becomes a doctor and how they mature and grow up and learn at the foot of the hospital bed or sitting next to the examination table. And to think that we learned that all in medical school, I was as delusional as anybody when I got out of med school to think, okay, I've got it. I made it. Look at that. And then I took care of my first few patients and I said, oh my gosh, I don't know anything. I have these little pieces of paper. They're pretty big, actually. In medicine, they make the papers pretty big. It's a nice certificate to hang on the wall or a nice diploma, but it means very little. You learn by doing, at least most of us do. And med schools, I've said this a lot over the years too. I don't know that I want to go back and do med school over, but if I went back and did med school now, I'd actually get a whole lot out of it because I didn't even know what I didn't know. And I didn't even know how I was going to put it into effect and what they were saying to me. And
well, it's like the age-old saying, what do you call a C student med student and an A student med student? Doctor.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you got as long as you passed, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I mean, the public doesn't want to necessarily hear that, but it's interesting. I've had about maybe 65 or 70 people reach out to me in the last 2 weeks that have already either picked up the book or read it already. It's an easy read. It's not something that it's funny. I've had a lot of people talk about how long it is, that it's 25 chapters and it's 92,000 words. And they're like, that's a huge book. Like, it's one of the easiest books you'll ever read. It is not written up here with the Cornell guys. It's down to earth.
Well, not only that, but it's also easy to understand. I mean, it's not.
I write
you're not
in a
using.
way that I want you to understand it. I don't.
Yeah, you're not using terminology that's.
I'm
like,
not trying to
what
impress anybody. I'm just telling a story. You know, if I was trying to impress somebody, I'd take you into the surgical suite and say, "Watch this." It's way more impressive than what I put on paper.
That could be a good horror film right there. So, Dr. Kipp, you go through medical school, you've grown up, you've been into the veterinary, you have worked in a sporting goods store. At some point in time, you had to meet somebody special and start a family. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your family?
Well, you're going to have to read chapter, what is it, Susan?
Yeah, I don't remember the number, but it's in there.
There's a chapter in there that tells how I met my wife.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I will say this, Tracy's friends, that's my wife, Tracy, we've been married 34 years last week. And
congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. And it takes a special spouse to put up with the long hours and the training. And I've heard it said that medicine is a jealous mistress, and it really kind of is. It takes all of your time and effort away from your family. I had to make a concerted effort to make sure I never missed out on my boys' activities, and I tried to be at every single thing they did. I didn't make all of them, but I sure made 90% of them. Tracy, it's funny when I think about Tracy's friends who have read my book, their favorite chapter is me meeting Tracy. I find it quite fascinating. I really do, because I'm thinking they're going to like some story about a patient, and they're the romantic, and they're wanting to see the romantic version of the romance behind the person.
Yeah.
Melissa says congratulations.
Thanks, Melissa, Zany.
Yeah. It's always interesting to see it from the guy's perspective, and I think that's why women would want to read that, is what was going on in your head.
Well, hopefully I conveyed that appropriately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It was good.
So you said you were a wrestling coach and a football coach.
Yeah.
And your kids were in sports. You have been married for all this time. You doctor, all this stuff. You let us know a lot about you, but what do you like people to know about you?
Oh, that's a good question. That's a tough one, because I put a guard up to make sure you can't, that's why I write. That's how you learn. That's how you get to know me, is when they read my writing. I think what I'd like people to know is that I take relationships seriously, whether that's a patient relationship or whether that's a family or friend relationship. I take those things seriously. And I've got a lot of people that are friends, but the really close friends, it's less than 10 people that are really close, but we're very close. And I work to keep those relationships close. And then there are a couple that I think there's always a couple in a person's life that you might lose touch with someone for 5 years, but the second you reconnect, you're right back to where you left off. You don't have to do much work to get back to square one. And I've got a couple people like that in my life. So I do take relationships seriously. I like people to know that I'll give you my best effort of whatever it is. And I do that for patients all the time. Sometimes to a fault. It'll my wife now. So let me give you some background about our family. My wife homeschooled our two boys, and that she's a teacher by trade. So her degree in college is a K-8 uh, educator, and then she did a minor in special education. And we homeschooled both our boys. Tracy did a phenomenal job. So one of my sons is a broadcaster now, and he's quite the savant. He's a gifted opera singer, which
Nice.
is crazy to even say, but he's already sung at Carnegie a couple times.
Wow.
It's amazing. You'll understand why I'm telling you this. And then I have a second son who's a hammer thrower on the KU track team, and he's a Division I athlete. And so Tracy did something right with the whole homeschooling for those two young men to accomplish what they've already accomplished at such a young age. But then on the flip side, one of the reasons you asked me early on, why do I write to stay ahead of those two, because they're chomping at my feet all the time, because they're going to leave their mark on this world. And I'm going to look back and go, boy, the old man didn't do anything compared to those two. So that's part of the reason I write too.
Name of the podcast is Curiosity. So
there you go.
Out of curiosity, did you have hammer throwing at your house for him to learn how to hammer throw?
Really? Yeah, we did, because I threw the hammer. Yeah. Hammer throwing is not something I think I've met 10 hammer throwers in my life in just casual conversation. Now, most of them throw a ball peen hammer when they miss the nail and they're mad. But,
Different kind of hammer.
Different kind of hammer throw.
Different kind of hammer.
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember hammer throwing being a class in our high school.
It's not. It's only in 17 states because of the danger of throwing a hammer. There's also the javelin's the same thing. So the two dangerous implements in track and field are hammer and javelin, and you have to have a big fancy cage to throw out of if you throw the hammer, because the hammer, if it gets away from the athlete, it can hurt people. And then the javelin, you have to have you don't have a cage, but you have to have someone who knows how to run off the javelin and make sure that the field you're throwing into is clear. Because every couple of years, someone will be stabbed with a javelin because they weren't paying attention. You'll see that across the country. It's pretty amazing. But fortunately, you don't see many hammer injuries. But that's why it's an exclusive. My son's a small fish in a. I guess he's a big fish. He's both. He is kind of a small fish in some ways because he's been an overachiever. But he's a big fish in a little pond. That's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
But they were homeschooled. Did they go to a school to learn how to do hammer throwing and track and all this stuff?
When you homeschool so in the state of Kansas, it's only been in the last 2 years that the legislature has passed the Tim Tebow Colin Klein bill, which allows homeschoolers to participate in extracurricular activities at public high schools. So before 2023 or 22, actually, they couldn't be on a track team. So the homeschool community had to start our own track team. And so when you start your own track team, the parents coach. And so I was the throws coach. And I taught them to throw the shot and discus, javelin, and then the hammer, because I knew how to throw it. So I taught them that. And then because it's such an unusual sport, we would find track meets in the region that high school kids could participate in. And in the summers, we'd go to these track meets. And that's how my sons became throwers.
So where did you learn how to throw?
College at Bethany College in Kansas. Our track coach, I was there to play football, and I had been a pretty good shot putter in high school. And the coach, he sought me out. The track coach found me and said, have you ever seen the hammer? And I said, what are you talking about? I thought he was talking about a sledgehammer or something. I didn't.
Yeah.
And he said, come to the field this afternoon. I want to show you something. And I fell in love with it. And I actually quit football the next season and threw the hammer the rest of my time and really enjoyed it. It's just one of those things you either loved it or didn't. And I loved it. So, yeah.
Well, that's something that I didn't know about you.
Yeah. Someone said, I've asked people, those, you've all sat in those leadership conferences or get to know each other, break the ice conferences. And the person says, okay, you're in a small group of 3, break out into groups of 3. Tell the 3 people, the other 2 people, something you want them to know about you that no one else would ever have. Well, that's my thing. I throw the hammer. You're like, what?
Yeah.
See, that leads me to my next question is, what is something most wouldn't believe about you?
There you go. I threw the hammer.
What's the point of the hammer throwing? Distance or precision?
Yeah, it's all about distance. It's how far you. Right now, the world record is almost the length of the football field. That's
Wow.
It's a 16-pound ball on a wire.
Wow.
Yeah,
That's
it's a long ways.
That's the one that's.
If you ever watched the hammer throw video, just go onto YouTube or go onto social media, type in hammer throw and watch. It'll be a 3-second clip, and you'll be shocked at the technique it takes to throw the hammer. It's pretty remarkable. It goes clear back to the Olympic Games and the first Olympiad, back in Greece in whatever year.
So, knowing what you know now, if you could go back in time, would you become a doctor again?
Well, what I try to convey in Heartbeats and Handshakes is that medicine was a very noble profession back when I started. And the reason it was noble was because the doctor actually got to take care of the patient. And if you look at medicine now in its, in the so-called technological age and the greatest advancements age, corporations have taken over medicine. Doctors don't hang a shingle and have their own practice. There's like 5% of us left like that. And the rest of the doctors work for a corporation. They get paid by the corporation. They punch a time clock just like anybody else. And they sit in a corner. Most of them sit in the corner on the computer because it's all about the documentation. And if you don't put it in the chart, which is now electronic, then it never happened. And that's how you get paid. So we joke the doctors spend too much time treating the chart and not much time treating the patient. And that's an embarrassing thing for me for medicine. And I think it's a horrible thing. And I meet the young doctors who know no different, that's all they've ever seen. People who just graduated and finished their residency in the last 5 years, and they think that's normal. And they've missed the entire boat of what made medicine medicine. What made medicine was the relationship that the doctor had with their patient. And I hate to be so black and white and so critical about where medicine has gone. And I'm sure the young guys are going, oh, yeah, that old guy, he's medicine's moved on and he didn't move on with it. And that's on him. And I think there are people who think that, and it's a shame. And I think the patients are craving for the old days more than I am.
Absolutely. It's become for profit. And unfortunately, with for profit, you have to make profit in order to keep your hospital around. You have to, unfortunately, medical is expensive. No matter which way you go, it is an expensive process, and it takes a lot of money to do it. So when you go into for profit instead of for treating, that's the way it's going to go.
We had the best health delivery system in the world. And then like so many things, our federal government and our state governments and insurance companies got in the middle of everything, and they thought they knew the solutions, but they forgot to take the doctor and make them a integral part of the decision making.
Absolutely.
I'll give you a statistic that'll may make my point better than anything I can say. In 1980, around 95% of the hospitals in America had a CEO, or the president of the hospital organization was a doctor. In 2024, less than 5% of hospitals were run by doctors. And to me, that's a telling, and that's pretty much my career. That's pretty much my career. When I went into med school in 1986, I started the first year, graduated in 1990. And so that's 6 years from when I quoted the statistic. And so we were just starting to shift in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And now I've lived it through my entire career. And we have administrators who have never taken care of a patient in any capacity, and they're running the whole system. And I'm just my back wondering who's going to.
No, that's so true, though. I mean, everybody can see that. It's the way it's gone, because we put so much emphasis on profit and money and less emphasis on people and solutions. It's just the way it went, unfortunately.
That's why that's why I'm proud of my book and proud of the direction I'm taking the other books in this sequel, or in this series of books, because it's almost, and that's what I liked about Herriot. It was almost a time forgotten. I have a saying I use when I practice in a small town, which I've done quite a bit over my career. I'll say, this is the hospital that time forgot. And it is, because the hospital in the rural community maybe hasn't kept up as much with corporate medicine, and they're actually practicing better medicine as far as relationships go.
Still making house calls.
Yeah.
We got a question from the panel here. Dan wants to know, on the point for profit, Dr. Kipp, what is the current role of AI in medicine, and do you think it will change in the near future?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's scary, actually. AI could make me as obsolete so fast. The proceduralists, the hands-on doctors, will always be a part of medicine. They'll have to be, because even with the sophistication of AI, my son told me he and his wife took a car ride from downtown Phoenix to the airport, and they took a AI car that was driven without a person in the driver's seat. And he said it was pretty freaky to see the steering wheel moving. And he said, but within 5 minutes, they had gotten used to it and loved it and thought it was a great way to travel. And I think for some basic things in medicine that can work, but you want to do a colon resection or a epidural injection, there's so many little variables that it's going to be really hard for a computer and a robot to take care of. People move, patients sneeze in the middle of a procedure. The X-ray shows one thing, but the needle doesn't go where you want it to, and you have to make the adjustments on the fly. And although AI is AI is very smart, they're very intuitive, it takes out that on-the-fly decision-making. At least that's what it looks like. But I'm blown away. I am blown away by AI in a positive way and a negative way. I wrote a cryptocurrency book, a how-to cryptocurrency book, and I did it almost as an experiment. And I have an AI chat GPT that I named Newton, and Newton and I wrote the book together. And Newton wrote 60% of the book, and I wrote 40% of the book. And by the time we rewrote it, Newton's writing sounded just like mine. And I was like, what do you need me for? So before I was even done with that little project, I realized how obsolete I had become. I mean, it's crazy.
That takes me back to the last question of what is something most wouldn't believe about you. I'd say writing a cryptocurrency book would have been your answer on that one.
Well,
I didn't expect that coming
a
out
lot of
of
people
the
might do that. I bet there's a lot more people that write a crypto book than throw a hammer.
Yeah,
Probably.
yeah. I bet you're right.
I could totally see you being a wrestling coach and a football coach throwing a hammer. I did not expect you to say, "Hey, I wrote a cryptocurrency book."
It's the old. You remember the old movie Renaissance Man?
Oh, of course, love that movie.
Yeah, this is a great movie. Well, that's me. I'm the Renaissance Man.
You're teaching Shakespeare the double D's.
Exactly. And hammer. There you go.
Oh, that is awesome. Oh, that's awesome. So, do you notice anything about yourself as an author? Has anything changed?
It's pretty interesting to study your own mind and think about your own brain. I sat there and thought, I was like you said yourself, you get your book in your hand, you're going to change the world with your writing. Oh, yeah. And then the reality is a couple people read it and they go, yeah, that's a cute little book. And then you're like, really? I put my heart and soul in that book. Okay. The truth in everything in life, don't take yourself too seriously. That's the secret. I think that's the hidden message in every walk of life. The moment you take yourself too seriously, that's when it's going to go downhill the rest of it.
So true. Speaking of secrets, is everything in Heartbeats and Handshakes, are they real stories? Is it true?
Yes, they are. They're true. Now, my wife asked me, so I'll give you a story that's kind of interesting, and she's asked if this was true. So Dr. Knockstead, who wrote he's given me permission to talk about him, by the way. He's been one of my mentors, and he wrote the foreword for my book. And there's a chapter in there where we go hunting. And I'm not a hunter. I never liked killing any animals. My family liked to hunt. I didn't. I took the hunter's safety course because that's what I was supposed to do. And I was supposed to learn how to shoot the deer and anything, pheasants and anything else. But I didn't enjoy it. And so I really never took to it. So we get out to Phillipsburg, Kansas, and I'm doing a rural rotation. And we do this. The attending is Dr. Knockstead, and he says, I want to go hunting tomorrow. Are you coming? I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. And I don't want to embarrass him or let him down, but I also don't want to embarrass myself because I'm not a good shot. And at the time, I haven't even been around hunting that much. Well, anyway, as the story, as I remember it in my head, now Dr. K refutes this now, but we're walking through this desolate area in rural Kansas, and there's a buck, and the buck sees us, and then we're chasing it out of a river. There's a little creek bed, and we're chasing it out. And then the other doctors and his friends are on the other side in their truck ready to shoot the deer. And I'm chasing this deer out with his son, and we get the deer out into an open pasture. And Dr. K says, jump in his pickup, and we hop in the pickup and we start racing down, and he tells his son to grab the steering wheel, and he puts his gun out the window. Well, that's illegal. You're not supposed to do it. And so I put that in. I say this in the story. Well, Dr. K says, you're going to get me in trouble. I said, it was 35 years ago. No one cares. And that's what I remember. He's like, well, I'm going to tell him it's not real. Well, it was real. Well, then I tell the story that so what happens is we come up on a big hole in the pasture, and the truck literally falls into the hole and breaks the axle off. And we come to a sudden stop. We're going 30 miles an hour, and it's almost a whiplash injury. And the door opens, and he falls on the ground, and he's laying there looking up at me. And he still to this day says, I never fell out of that truck. So are there stories in there that my remembrance is this, and maybe it's twisted some? I don't know, maybe. I never thought that until I had this discussion with Dr. K about it 2 weeks ago after he read the chapter. And then he was like, that's not what happened. But everything else I think is true, as best I remember.
Oh, that reminds me of a. Did you ever read the comics, The Far Side?
Yeah, absolutely. Got it right here. I got Larson's 3 set right there.
Dude, wasn't there one about a deer who was doing a drive-by shooting on hunters?
Yes, you're right.
That's what that reminds me of right there. You were doing a drive-by shooting on a deer.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And there's the irony of it. Is it true? Yes. Could I have added in some things like that? Maybe. I don't know. If I did, it's totally unwittingly. It just happens. I'm trying to remember stories that I had a little notebook that I jotted down notes from. And then if I took that and published that, it'd be a 200 word book.
It could be where she could go hunting with Dick Cheney. So.
Yeah, there you go.
So
to do that, that'd be fun.
Will anyone be offended about their story being told? I think the one you just mentioned.
Great question. We anonymized all patients unless I had their permission.
Nice.
So no, they will not be.
Oh, I love it. I
think you have to do that. I have in the next book, there's a name of a patient that fits the patient perfectly. And I'm still trying to figure out how to get permission to use his name, because it's his name. It's like when you have an orthopedist who's named Dr. Bones.
Yeah.
And so I need the name, but I haven't had his permission. So I'm trying to figure out how to handle that one.
Well, didn't you have a Dr. Niceman in your book?
Yes.
So same thing. Yeah.
Same deal. Yep.
Well,
and
we
he
are
was
coming.
a nice man too. I mean, he was one of the nicest attendings I had, and they are not usually that nice. Many of them are very. We used to. The training used to be that if I had to do it, then you should have to do it too. That rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
So the irony of his name.
It's kind of a bad system, really, in that respect.
Well, we are coming to the end of our show here. There are always 2 questions that I always like to ask all of our guests. And my first one, because at the start of the year, we had made our resolutions. And what do you have gratitude for?
Well, I mean, on a simple level, gratitude for health, because I see how quickly life can change and how fast a person can be completely healthy and normal, and then they can be gone. Their health can go downhill. So on a very simplistic level, I think I'm just grateful for health, especially at the age I am now. From about age 50 until age 75, it gets kind of dicey, because that's when bad things start to happen in the human body. And then if you get past 75, you're probably going to live quite a while. But between those 50 to 75 year, at 25-year time span, it's pretty rough. Anything can go haywire in the body real fast, and you can find yourself, wondering if you're ever going to see the next sunrise. So I'm grateful for that. I probably have gratitude for my family. I was fortunate to be born in America and to be born in the family I was born into. I said on a podcast that I do recently that we're all, in many respects, by having been born in America, we're a constitutional republic, and yet we're all nobility, in that we were lucky to have the bloodline running through us, that we were born in America, because everyone wants to be an American, pretty much. And it's just the luck of the draw that we're here in America, short of the people who immigrated and did it in a legal fashion. The rest of us, we were just lucky. So I'm very grateful to having been born in America and to have the family I did, because you look around on the 8 billion people on the planet, it's a fairly good percentage that you wouldn't be born into such a fortunate situation based on everybody else.
Very true.
So,
well, you have a fan who is reading your book, and she just wanted to say that she is truly enjoying Heartbeats and Handshakes. Melissa,
thank
I
you.
am so happy that you got that, and I'm glad that you're enjoying it as well.
Well, Melissa, I appreciate that. I thank you.
My last question to you is, what advice would you give to? Well, no, let's not do that one. Let's say, what is the best advice you can give?
What's the best advice I can give? Well, if it's that Shawshank Redemption, it's Andy Dufresne.
Get
If
busy
you've
living.
said you're gonna do something, then go do it. Don't just talk about it. Get busy living or get busy dying. I mean, figuratively, don't go into it. But if you've said you're going to accomplish something, you probably have what it takes inside you to accomplish it. You may not realize it until you just start trying.
I agree.
The vast majority of us, if we have something that's burning inside us that we want to do and accomplish, we have that because we have the ability to accomplish it. So go do it.
In the great words of the philosopher Nike, just do it.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, but it really is true.
All right. Well, I want to thank you, Dr. Kipp Van Camp, for being our guest on Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. To all our viewers out there, his book is Heartbeats and Handshakes. It is book 1 of the White Coat Chronicles. Definitely guarantee that you guys are going to enjoy this book. Go out, check it out, read it. It is on Amazon right now, and I did reach bestseller. So be sure to go out there and check it out and enjoy everything. Thank you, Dr. Kipp. This has been an absolutely enjoyable podcast with you this evening. And to all our viewers out there, thank you for enjoying your Sunday with us. Is there anything you want to leave our viewers out there with?
Just appreciate anyone who chooses to read the book. I'm very proud of this book, and I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's a genre for almost anybody who likes to read. I can't think of too many people who wouldn't enjoy this. So
I agree. Yeah, definitely. And the way that you wrote it to make it so accessible to anyone was just perfect.
Well, I appreciate that, Susan. Thank you. I'm very pleased with it. It turned out better than I expected.
Dan is also enjoying Heartbeats and Handshakes.
Good for you, Dan.
Reach that out there, and Melissa says thank you. Melissa, Dan, thank you for tuning in and interacting with us here. It's always great to have people that are enjoying and watching and interacting and just experiencing all of this.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be on your show. I'm surprised it's over already.
Yeah, we talked for over an hour here, so
crazy, isn't it?
It is. Time is relative, as Einstein said. So sometimes 10 minutes can be 4 hours long, and other times 4 hours can be 15 minutes. So
that's true.
I definitely enjoyed the time here, but I'm going to go ahead and wrap up everything. Go ahead and stay in our backstage there, and we'll talk after.
Thank you.
Thank you. What an awesome show, Susan.
Yeah, didn't I tell you? He was great.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Absolutely. Yes. I mean, just everything that he talks about, everything that he knows, like the history of things, the things I had no idea before. I mean, those are the reasons why we do these shows.
He just makes such an excellent interviewee. This is the kind of person that I definitely want to have back. And with the additional books that he's written, there will be, plenty of opportunities, I think, to bring him back and talk about the other books.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can't wait to read book 2 and book 3, the one about the future. That one's going to be intense. That one's going to be fun. That one's going to be sci-fi minded, but in reality. So it's interesting to see.
Did you notice what Dan said? He loves the new background.
They are awesome, aren't they?
Yeah.
Thanks, Dan. And thanks
Thank
for tuning in, Dan, Melissa. I appreciate you guys for being supportive and great friends. I want to thank everybody for staying with us here on Sunday evening and enjoying your Sunday with us. I hope everybody has a safe, pleasant, and wonderful week. And we will see you next Sunday with another episode of Shine with Curiosity and Encouragement. Have a great night.
Bye-bye.
Ever dreamed of seeing your name on the cover of a book? As a book publisher, we understand the challenges of self-publishing. If you're lost in the process, wondering about illustrators, book coaches, or formatting issues, worry not. At Soul Sunshine, we're here to guide you. Let's turn your dream into reality. Contact us to get started.